Hi. Okay, we're going to move right into our next segment. I did an IGTV with Bershan, which was incredible. And I also did the same day an IGTV with our next speaker, who also was unbelievable. I took so many notes. She's an amazing speaker. She's an investor, podcaster, USA Hall of Fame gymnast, and so much more. She's going to probably tell you, I could tell you more things about what she's founded, what she's doing now, but she's definitely an innovator when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So we're going to be doing this Q&A style again, and this time I hope she can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, thank the heavens.
Amazing.
Okay, good. So please welcome Lisa Carmen Wang. Thank you, Lisa.
Hi.
For being here.
So excited to be here. I'm tuning in from Costa Rica.
Oh my God. You guys, we're like, if we made a map right now of all the little, like maybe pins that shows where people are and who's watching, we're fully in Prague, Costa Rica, Canada, LA, Atlanta. It's really exciting. So thank you for coming in. I'm sure it's much nicer outside right now. So Lisa, why don't you tell us how you got into investing and tell us what's the biggest mistake women make when it comes to investing?
Sure. So just a little bit about my background. I'm a former USA national champion gymnast. I was on the US team for 10 years, from gymnast to entrepreneur. And I built my last company, She Works, which was a global community of over 20,000 female entrepreneurs. We help women raise over $30 million in venture capital funding. And this is a space where 94% of venture capital investors are men. And so it is extremely difficult to navigate this space when we think of the world of technology and finance and Silicon Valley bros. That is the environment that I have operated in for the last 6 years. And so just maintaining femininity in a place that's super charged with masculine energy is something that I would love to talk about more after. But after that, I sold my company, She Works, to a company called Republic, and that was acquired. And Republic is now the leading platform to invest in startups and cryptocurrency and real estate and video games. And so I'm the head of brand there. But the way that I got into investing is that right now, 94% of investors are men, as I've mentioned. And the result is that only 2% of all funding goes to female entrepreneurs. 2%. And actually, from 2019 to 2020, that percentage went down to 1.8%. And so this is what's just so incredible to me, because there's so many headlines now. You know, after the Me Too movement, we're talking about gender diversity in the C-suite, in entrepreneurship, and yet the amount of funding goes down each year, and that in 2020. And so one of the things that I always think about is how do we actually start creating change in the system? Because I think at the end of the day, what we haven't, especially as women, aren't socialized to do is we aren't socialized to talk about money and investing in a way that feels comfortable, because it has always been a boys' club. And we have this almost like shame or negativity around charging or asking for more. You know, over 60% of women never negotiate the first offer. And no one teaches us to do these things. And what that results in is usually that first lack of negotiation. The man usually makes on average $11,000 more than the woman. And when you compound that, if you put that money, that $11,000 into an IRA, compounded that over the course of a woman's lifetime, that is an average of $3.3 million of less than what the average man makes. And so, you know, these sorts of conversations, I know they're not as exciting, you know, as I think, you know, I didn't talk about this with my girlfriends like growing up in high school. And then it was a certain point when I walked into these rooms with so many men, and it was just like, this is what we talk about. And I was like, why aren't more women in this room? Because one thing that we just haven't really, you know, brought in is conversations that money does run the world. And it is not, and money is simply energy. It's an exchange of energy. You know, it's not positive, it's not negative. It's whatever you use it for to create the kind of impact or freedom that you want. And so after I sold my company, I thought to myself, well, that was such a grind. And for anyone who's been an entrepreneur, it is such a grind every single day. And I was like, how do I stop exchanging my time for money? You know, and how do I do less and make more? And one of the only ways is investing. You can have, you know, you can have digital products, and you have products themselves, or you can learn to invest. And so for me, it was twofold. One was I wanted to get back more of my time, and I wanted my money to work for me rather than working for my money. And one of the biggest mistakes that I had believed, you know, I came from an immigrant background, and so a lot of money, you're taught to save and clip coupons and like try to not buy the latte because maybe you're saving money there. No one teaches you to invest, because if you actually keep your money in a savings account, what ends up happening is that as the inflation rate goes up, you're actually losing money when you don't invest it. If your money is not working for you, you are literally losing money. And so when that was a big wake-up call for me, and I made it a mission of mine first personally to start learning about this, because the other thing is when women start investing in different asset classes, women invest in other women, and that's the only way that we're actually going to change the types of products that are made. You know, one of the companies I advised, she was one of the earliest companies that did tampon subscriptions. And so she went to pitch her company at Silicon Valley, and these men said, is there a market for this? Maybe I'll ask my secretary. And they're like, how does this not get funding? And it's because the person sitting on the other side of the table don't look like you, don't understand the product, they don't understand a world that's built for women. And so if you're going to create change, that's what I said, I can create greater change by investing in products created by women, for women. You know, most of us, we buy products by women, for women, because those products are actually created for us. But I think the number one thing for women to learn is that there's an illusion of safety when you save the money in a savings account. And when I say it's an illusion of safety, it's because it's really not safe, right? It's losing money. And then the second thing is there are opportunities to invest in other women's companies, and that is how we start changing the status quo in terms of the amount of funding that's going towards more women.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we could probably do a million segments on this, because I think I already told you I had like a million questions myself. But, you know, one of the things that I think too is it's like, how do you know that you're not going to lose your money when you invest? You know, like for me, I only invested once with a friend who told me I would fully get principal back, and it was $5,000. Like, this is not, I'm sure, the glee that you're talking about, right? It was my one and only investment, and I knew I was going to get it back, right? So I knew we're not going to necessarily get into this, but I think it is the fear too, and I'm sure this is with men as well, in what if you don't get it back, you know? And another thing too, this is something that I tell myself almost every day. Sometimes I worry, you know, about money, right? Making money. And then I say to myself, rather than worrying about how I'm going to save the next 3 months and what I'm going to spend less money on, so on, I should instead be like, I'm going to make money, like extra money, because I'm going to like have a different way of viewing the future rather than worrying about the future, being like, well, I'm just going to handle the future, you know? So I don't know if you want to comment on any of that, but.
Yeah, well, so I think that even reframing the question, because your question was, what if I lose it? How will I know if I'm going to get it back? And the reality is you don't know. You don't know if you're going to walk outside and, you know, here in Costa Rica, a coconut might fall on your head. So apparently there's a higher risk of dying with a coconut falling on your head than getting eaten by a shark. So this is true. Be careful if you're standing under a coconut tree. Like, you don't, You never know. And so I think this is something where this is actually a larger conversation about women and our relationship to risk. And that's, taking risk when it comes to raising my hand and saying, I have something to say first. Taking a risk when it comes to applying for a job when you are not 100% qualified, right? Taking the risk to start your company even though you don't feel totally ready and you don't know every skill and you don't have the right teammates in place, but you do it anyway because you say, I believe I can. I have a mission. I have a passion. This is what I'm meant to do. The world needs my talents and strengths, because if I don't put this out there, I'm doing a disservice to everyone else because I'm not sharing my gifts, right? So that's this idea of like just risk, doing things even though there isn't 100% guarantee, because there's never 100% guarantee. And every great investor knows is that we have to look at this as, you might lose some money, but you're going to earn it back. You're smart, you're capable, you have skills. If you can do anything on the internet, you can probably get paid for it. And so I always, you start from a place of like worst case scenario, worst case scenario. Will you have a roof over your head? Right? I think almost everyone here who's taking the time to be here can say they wouldn't end up completely homeless. They have friends, they have family, they have people who care about them, right? And the rule of thumb for investing in anything: don't invest don't invest your life savings, don't invest what you like cannot afford to lose, but smartly setting aside and saying, even I want to take 10% of my savings and I want to diversify. So you always want to diversify your assets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. A lot of times we get really excited. We're like, oh, this is amazing. So first rule is diversify. And not only, so you don't put your eggs in one basket, but what also happens is you start learning. Mm-hmm. And as it's just, if you think psychologically, the more we do something, the more comfortable we get. And if we never do it, we always stay on the other side of fear. And they say, the greatest freedom is on the other side of fear. And so start with, and now there's platforms, public.com allows you to invest in stocks. Put $10 in. I put $10 in Bumble. You put $10 in, in Amazon. $10. You can buy little things. If you're interested in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, you're hearing all of these things. Put $10 in, right? And see, and part of that is seeing how you react when you see that money go down, when you see it go up. And because you start training yourself, because it's really emotional. Because I have, friends who first get into it and they put in like $1,000, and then the next day they check it and it's $800. They're like, oh no, I lost $200. I'm like, this is the long game. The best things, you take time and then you set it and forget it. You have things like Betterment. So I put a lot of my money in, like a lot of my savings in Betterment, which is robo-advisor. So it's a robo-index fund, which basically you set it, you forget it, they rebalance it. But AI these days can help you better than a financial advisor. And so I'll put my money in that, and I don't look at it for 6 months, once every 6 months, and it's always up.
Wow. Well, let me ask, we don't have much time left, and there's two things I definitely want to go over, which is your podcast and your book. So let's look at those. So tell us about your Enoughness podcast, and how does lack of enoughness affect women and their finances?
Yeah. So enoughness is this question of, when am I ever enough? How much? And so this is for overachievers, the perfectionists, the people who are like, maybe the more that I do, it's still not enough. Every time you achieve something, you move the goalpost further and further, and you say, I have to keep doing more. I have to keep working harder. I'm still not enough. I'm still not good enough. But the result of that is, when you say I'm not good enough, and when you say I still have to do more in order to prove my worth, whether to yourself or to someone else, you're inherently saying to yourself, I'm not worth. I'm not worthy enough. And one of the biggest things that I teach women, and this is in my ebook as well, The Fearlessly Female Guide to Financial Freedom, which you can find in the expo. Everyone here can take 20% off with the code Fearless20. But it's that, you know, you can learn all the tactics about negotiation. You can learn all the tactics about investing. You can learn all the tactics about like how to budget and save and do those things. But if you fundamentally do not believe in your heart that you are worthy and deserve whatever your goal is, $1 million, $100,000, like whatever you want, if you don't believe that, you will never truly attract that money energetically, because again, money is energy. And I'm sure people have heard about manifestation, but I'm not here saying like manifest $1 million, you know, but that aura, that enoughness, when you're going in to negotiate a deal, it's not about the tactics of negotiation. It's about walking in there and saying like, I am worth so much more, and feeling that so deep in your gut that if someone were to disrespect you and give you a lower price than you deserve, you'd be like, I don't need this, I'm out. And it's cultivating that sort of financial worthiness and just self-worthiness that really brings you to that next level.
Absolutely. Well, definitely we should check out that podcast. It's why don't you type in the chat the name of the podcast? And I did just want, it looks like we've run out of time. But I do want to make one pitch. Everyone who's listening, Lisa, you should also watch the IGTV we did, because she did this whole anecdote about every morning her boyfriend looks in the mirror and he's like, you're amazing, you're gonna kill this, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, do you do this every day? So she has a lot of really great information to share. And she has an ebook. It's called The Fearlessly Female Guide to Financial Freedom. It's in the expos, I think this side for you guys. Again, it's going to be open through Sunday at 12. It's an ebook, which is great. You can read it on your phone, read it on your iPad, on the go, or on your computer. And she does have a discount. It's there in the booth. So definitely, I think everyone's probably really inspired by what you were just talking about. I didn't fully know people got worried when they invest, so it's good to know other people feel that way. Get her ebook. And Lisa, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you.